players and the new pros and whatnot. This will be today. You all have 5 minutes. You're going to keep time for each other. You remember how? Yes, phones. Set your phone, raise it up in the air as it approaches 5 minutes so the person talking knows. Some people that are speaking rely on you to keep their time for them. So if you don't, they'll just keep going. Okay? Kristen's going to introduce your judges, possibly also what they're judging you about. Hopefully your challenge applications, but we'll see. Okay. He'll be judging you about your challenge applications. So our judges today here in San Francisco, we're pretty lucky. We have some cool people. If you just want to wave, we have Kristen, Deputy U.S. Chief Technology Officer for the White House. We also have Sashi Pillay, who's down here. Our NASA Chief Technology Officer for IT. We have astronaut Ron Guerin, who's also part of our Open Government team. And Ted Drake, he's on the accessibility team at Intuit and a core member of ROC. So they will be your judges today as we're going through. And I think that's all. I think from there we can get started. Great. The culmination! Okay, so what did I say was first? Open data? It's you! Yay, Matrax on deck. Do you have any audio?
No, no voice.
Okay. Mike. Everyone, set your phones! And go!
Hi everyone, my name is Matt Harris, Matt Harris on Twitter. I decided to take the challenge of presenting a preliminary design for Open Data API, which is quite a large area of exploration, if I put it bluntly. This challenge was to try and see if there was a way to open up the Open Data API that's on data.nasa.gov into a way that makes the data easily consumable, or in a way that developers can implement in their own apps. I started tackling this problem on my own, trying to work out if there was a way to really look at existing data sets. You want me to talk to this?
Stand over there, yes.
Okay,
Sorry.
I need to move the mouse around.
I will do this thing for you.
Awesome, thank you. You want me to stand in front of the camera? Good.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. So looking at the data that's available, there's a lot of data that's out there. And this challenge originally sort of indicated that we'd have to try and work out schemas of data that was available. There's that much data that already has been defined by its own schema set. It was really going to be a 10-year project to try and work out a schema to accommodate all of those. So in the immediate reaction I had was to try and catalog instead the way that those different schemas were written for the different data sets. So I started on an adventure through NASA's data sets to try and find out what was available, what was produced, what was already defined. And in a large sort of proportion of that data, if we go to data.nasa.gov, which is the third tab across the top, you can see this is what's currently available, and we have Kepler, solar dynamics, ocean color, all these various types of data that we produce. They're tagged and they're categorized to easily find. The thing is, if we go to any one of those examples, and any one at all, what we really have is just a summary of a description of what that is. The only thing that really points to data is the URL at the top. And if we go to that URL, we start going into the realms of where this data is being defined. So we can see we've got some PDFs there. This isn't really something you develop to implement or actually start processing. So the problem I started to face was, how do we define this kind of data? And I kind of took one that was already defined, Kepler, and worked out a way that that could be defined instead. So if we go back to the first tab, open data. What I did was first suck down data.nasa.gov into its own application, and I started representing it in a different way. So the tags kind of using curators there, in a way that you can actually start digging through the curators that are available. Then what I did was, if we dig into any one of these examples, like space science, I started producing the different types of data set that were available in that way. We can see that Kepler and solar dynamics and all those blog posts, the original content there. If we go into the Kepler one, We have that summary, but we have some additional point here called data sets. And data set, this is the first one I tackled, which is the Kepler Planet Candidate Explorer, which took up most of the time to work out how to format it. And this isn't on the original site. This is just an example of Kepler data being presented on the web. And I collected the URL so that you could actually view the data set if you wanted to. So it takes you straight to an example of the data. If the internet's working nicely, we can actually see this is the data produced on that data set. And if we go back up a level, I then decided what we wanted to do was actually define it in a way that an application developer could consume it. And this is a schema that could be downloaded in YAML format that defines that table. So that way, the developer wouldn't have to actually dig through the documentation for the Kepler dataset. Instead, what they could do is just download this YAML and build their own database from that Kepler data. Kind of what I got to in the end. We put that into a JSON object so it can be downloaded from the site, but this isn't really live or public. It's more of a proof of concept.
We're only going to take questions from the judges for right now. Just to keep things short, you should maintain your own question list and chat while the judges deliberate. But are there any questions from our judging folks? Yes.
Matrax.
And Matt, where are you from?
Originally from England, but I've been in San Francisco for the last 3 years.
What brings you here today?
NASA Space Apps. I'm a big enthusiast of NASA tweet ups and following on space shuttle missions and where NASA goes from now on. It doesn't apply to all data sets, but it's a framework that I hope can be applied to all of the ones that are there. So I started applying to different data sets, experimentation, which is not really much. Sure.
Do you have an example of using the data to create your own data?
Not yet. We didn't get a chance to actually implement that. We being my chance to actually draw the schema into an application to serve it. But I hope it's relatively simple to do, and I could probably put one up in the next 3 hours. Sure. So the question was about collaboration. I was actually monitoring what was happening in Stuttgart and Oxford, who were also tackling this problem when I looked at it originally. They were quite further ahead than where I was actually when I started, and they actually started defining a different way of consuming the data. So for the Oxford team, what they did was they were actually consuming data and then presenting it through their web service rather than actually pointing to it. So it's a very different dynamic and a different direction than I wanted to go in. So I tried not to overlap and sort of come with a different way of consuming this problem. And maybe there's a solution that comes from joining the two together. Okay, thanks very much.
Do you have audio?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Great. So I was one of the team members on the Matrax team, and for those of you who can't recall, but I think you've heard this a number of times, Matrax is an application that was developed at NASA to help students with vision impairments understand the graphs that are generated by forming. So this was this is the original application that was developed as a desktop application in Java. So for example, we've got a formula up there, y equals sine x. It automatically generates a textual description that then a text-to-speech engine or a screen reader can read to the student. And then it also has this functionality where it will play an auditory. Okay. Doesn't sound like we're getting sound. Let's do it again.
No.
There we go. So that's an example. All right. All right, pull it off for a second. So that's what the application, of course, being that it's a desktop app, it has a lot of limitations. You can't embed it on a website. You can't embed it in an electronic textbook. So we worked on essentially trying to prototype using some modern web standards, so leveraging the HTML5 canvas surface for actually drawing the graph and then using the web audio APIs. Then we took the map description engine and made it more of a web service. Well, we leveraged a web service prototype that was created by a group out of Georgia Tech out of it. And so let me kind of just give a quick demo of that. All right. So what we'll do, we'll start with a simple chart. So we'll put y equals x. So in that case, it went ahead and used the web audio API there. It's the internet's a little slow, but it's going to pull in the description into the box down here. It worked fine. So let's do a steeper curve. So now let's say y equals x times 5. Load that page. Of course. Okay. Well, anyways, if the internet worked and the page loaded, it would just draw the steeper curve, and then the sound would be the pitch would go up much higher, and then it would actually show that description. Let me try one with it. Oh, there it goes. Kind of. No. We're toast. Move it over there. Oh well, that's what happens. Anyways, I'll just talk through the rest. So we were able to get some of these things webified, and we also were able to change the server code to actually generate the SVGs as well. So it's another way, and SVGs can be printed on tactile printers, so a student can feel the chart. Now these tactile printers are very expensive. They can cost, the cheapest I've ever heard of is like $1,700. And so we're looking at how can you use these very inexpensive 3D printers. And so one of the team members put in some great work in terms of figuring out what's the file format that those printers take, and actually looking at what we need to do there. So I think that covers it. Questions? There we go. All right, so there's your sine wave with web audio. So it did work. All right, anyways. All right, well, thank you. Oh, yeah, sorry.
So in order to be able to use this, you have to have some training modules, right? Because to hear that it sounds like it's not clear unless you have some basic that you be trained.
Yeah, the educator needs to be trained on how to use this tool. The training piece, we didn't tackle the training piece, but there are a lot of training materials that I believe were developed with Matrax. So we didn't really create any new functionality at this time. Well, the SVG functionality in printing the tactile printers is somewhat new. So we would leverage those same training materials. I mean, ultimately, where we plan to use this is the organization that I work for. We have the large library of accessible textbooks, and these graphs have always been a challenge in these textbooks. So part of the reason we wanted to webify this technology is so we could embed it inside of these electronic textbooks. Yeah.
Is that the point now where it can be embedded, or how far before it can be embedded?
Well, I think, let's see. Yeah, the question is it ready to be embedded right now? I mean, I think anything, well, certainly our work from this weekend is not ready yet. I think, you know, it's probably still a couple months away to really work out all the bugs. because I showed you some very simple formula examples. There's some other things that need to be sorted out. But, you know, I don't think it's years of work. It's probably months of work.
What's your plan for that? Further development?
Yeah, so, well, the way we're going to actually put this to work this fall, because we have some plans, is to integrate it with another tool, another open source tool that we have. It's called Poet, which is for actually adding in image descriptions into these electronic textbooks. So we'll start by actually having it so a volunteer, we work a lot with volunteers, they could see the formula in the textbook, put it in, it would automatically generate the description. That description would be automatically embedded into the textbook, and then the accessible version of the chart would also be embedded in. And hopefully, you could embed the sonification as well. So our goal is by the end of the year to have this in a working system, so you could actually have books leverage this. It was mostly the team here. So, great team. Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to do low-cost guidance. It'll be working once we plug a new one in. Yes. Data? Okay, so next is the low cost, and then we're going to do rural electrification. Wading through the sea of chords. And I'm just
Okay, my name is Fran from Amador. I submitted this challenge because I wanted to see what I could get together as far as software and hardware for something that I think it's going to come in the future, where things are going to get miniaturized. You're going to need equipment and software that can be implemented in unmanned vehicles or probes that can be sent out. It was quite a challenge integrating SPICE from NASA because it's a very intense software. It definitely needs a physicist and space aeronautical engineer to give us details about it. So even though we could get part of it running just for one thing, we weren't able to integrate it. We were able to run this portion. At this point, we didn't get to field connection accelerometer or any kind of data input, but the template is there. You can do it. Just to give an example, this is what it would have looked like, which is considered standard automation process control system. And again, this would be running a server, a small computer device. So basically, the challenge, one of the problems we had, we took on a big task, and trying to minimize it to be done in a weekend was pretty hard. But just want to thank my partner there, who has quite a Brandon, who very expert at Linux and C programming, was able to crack and get into the code, which was originally written in Fortran, and the way they converted it had all these other uses in it. But we learned quite a bit. I definitely don't feel discouraged with this. This is definitely a learning experience on what it takes to be in space. And at this point, I just want to say it's a good challenge, and I will still work on it still after this. Does anybody have any questions?
How far did you get?
Well, how far did we get? We got to running one simulation of what it was.
We learned how to use spice kernels and Celestia, and we're tinkering with spice kernels. And with the idea that we would actually try and generate spice kernels real time, so have navigation information, and then the Android computing having this platform trying to get data on Android quick, so we have the Android USB most common things that we can see Android phone sensors. So the ultimate goal demo would have been like actual Celestia with
Okay, come.
Sorry.
Are you done now?
yeah.
So the goal was just to get a real-time data input into SPICE from NASA. So because as it turns out, I don't know if you know, they use SPICE for a lot of their missions. And it's basically they gather data, they plan out the missions, and depending on the trajectory of this spacecraft, they have to do it multiple times. It's not a continuous system. So they get data, they figure out how far away they are from their trajectory, and they recompile the data into the kernel, get the new trajectory. That keeps them in place, but it's not done real time. And there's several reasons for that. There's time drifts between here and space, and depending on your clock, you can't really synchronize them unless you keep checking, okay, system update, system update. And I think that's why they have to gather data. The ground control crew recalculates the new trajectory, and then they send new telemetry back.
So another week? You had another week and you had a prototype working?
The question is, if it was another week, would we have it working? No, because we're trying to use Python to integrate into it. And part of SPICE future development did say that it would be Python as a quick kit to be included, but that hasn't happened. There was a student in Berkeley who tried as a master's program, but it wasn't also compiling. So if we could get that SPICE compiled into Python, it would have been a seamless integration into this. And that's where it takes quite a bit of work. Okay, so the question is, where do I see this being used? Again, I see unmanned vehicles being launched. There's already talk of commercializing space. If you could get an open source system out there where people can actually test these ideas of, okay, how do I get a spacecraft into space without bumping into the thing, or give me a trajectory where I can see where I'm at, and it's safe to say I'm there using a real-time system. No, not an experiment. Definitely a system that can check with itself with sense data coming in and do it on its own. Sorry.
How does it differ from the existing?
How does it differ from the existing guidance and control system? Well, this is software-based, so it wouldn't be real-time. No, the existing ones are hardware-based. They want more manpower goes into creating them. This would be, the goal was to get something of a proof of concept where you could do it at a low cost and using existing software.
Okay. Whoa, let's keep the pace moving.
What happened to your laptop?
Can I leave you guys to set this up? Know how to do this thing?
To do that. I mean, is it easier to use yours?
That's right.
And this is the one that
What? No. I didn't do this alone.
Oh,
So I'm keeping them up here because they can feel it. Actually, otherwise I can pretend I did it alone, which is of course not true. Where's Greg? Greg here? And then Kat? Where's he? He hiding? Ah, okay. You also work on it. Just look at him for a second. Are we set? Okay, so hello everybody. We came here to basically try and understand one problem, which is who in the world has access to light, and who in the world has access to electricity, and what can we do about it? This was done with the team that eventually created this solution, which is called World at Night. Essentially, we wanted to understand who has light today, who has access to electricity today, and who's in the dark. And what can be done in an effective way, because these programs are really resource intensive to bring electricity to somebody. How can we choose in a smart way where electricity should be deployed next? So we created this wonderful web app called The World at Night, where we actually can visualize what the world's state of light is, or electricity is, today. We used NASA nighttime sky images, which were taken over 18 years, to see where in the world actually today people will have access to light. And so, Ron, where's Ron? You're hiding behind us. So if you were sitting at the ISS, you would fly over the world seeing this image. You'd think that, most of the people live there. Just go a little bit to the right, most people live there. And the rest of the continents, you'd think they'd be empty because there's nothing there. In fact, while we wait this to load, we thought, well, we know that there's people living there, so can we actually map the population density in different areas of the world? So we created a layer with population density, which will definitely appear soon. Willow, are you sabotaging our operation?
Let me
Apparently we don't have access to it. We should create a map of that.
I'm not. No, that was for me. That wasn't for the crowd. The song. Okay. Now you should be good.
Okay.
For as long as my phone's out.
This does not count as 5 minutes, right?
Did you have 5 minutes?
I don't know. At 5? Okay. Can you at 5 to see if it refreshes?
Disconnected?
I mean, we worked at this pretty hard, so we want to show you what we did. Sorry for the delay. Okay.
Okay. So.
So the question still remains, if you want to understand where people have light, you want to know where, basically you can use the nighttime sky data to see where people have light. Then you can overlay the population layer, which I'll show you right now how that looks, and understand if there's basically an unfair difference between where people have access to electricity and where people live. And of course that is the case, which we'll show you right now. Okay, I see it.
And for our next trip,
So many-
struggling with chainsaws instead of laptops.
So I can tell you a story. As we got here yesterday morning, the first thing that happened in the first hours, my computer died. So it seems that we're in a hackathon, but we're still having some technical issues. We spilled 2 cups of water on our table, which had 4 computers on it. So anyways, while we're back, so this is the population density map. Just, can you go back to the light one for a second? Just keep this in your mind. So that's where people live. So if Ron was looking out his window in the ISS, he would think we would live all in Europe and the US. But if you actually had a map which showed where we live, where people live, you would see this, right? So huge difference about where people are and where there's light at night. So that already tells us some information. Now, okay, we know that in some areas it's really important that we provide grids, generation power, coal-fired power plants, solar electricity. What is it? What would you do, right? Very expensive to do, so you need to make a smart choice. So then the next thing is, well, we know what the solar irradiance is, insolation on Earth, so we can map that. Well, great. In the areas where there's many people, it turns out there's a lot of available solar energy that can be harvested. The next question is, how far do people? So if you don't want to use solar energy, you might want to use general grid expansion, build more transmission lines. So we map the distance that people live currently from current light sources to their homes. So it's basically a flood map which shows that distance. It's not very clear, but essentially you can do that. So the next step, now we've basically diagnosed part of the problem. The next step after today's challenge, after having created this and being able to share this information with you, our goal was to create an equation where you would actually click on a specific part on the map and it would show you which type of electricity would be the most advisable to deploy here. Would it be solar? Would it be hydro? Would it be wind? Would it be coal? Would you want to extend the existing transmission system? So basically for every area on here you can do that calculation. The data is out there. So that will be the next step. Additionally, I want to mention that how this was done. So there's a technical component. We spent 48 hours sweating, trying to figure out how to do that. So maybe you want to tell us quickly in 30 seconds how that happened?
We are mostly using a couple of technologies, which is to upload all the GIS data and to serve it. We use GeoServer, which is a web map server, WMS. And the map client that you see is a JavaScript-based library called OpenROV. So this is the setup that we use to serve maps, but we also use ArcGIS to do a lot of processing on the data set because like to extract all these data sets to have the difference map, the flood maps, it's all process intensive operations that we have to do. That's what took a lot of time because every data set is about a GB. We have to calculate a lot of data over time and generate all this map and overlays. So that's, and the web page is basically a JavaScript application.
And specifically, the very cool thing that I think is worth highlighting is that we were working with 2 people from Pong, Nicholas and Greg, and so they were one of the sponsors of the event, and they were able to basically come up with a new application of their existing software platform to look at a map like this and index the pixels, the colors, basically do image processing using their software, which was never done before. And so they basically proved that that was also possible. So I think this was interesting for not just for us as learning experience, for them to see the limits of their software, go extend those limits, and now we have basically provided you and hopefully more people, because the website's online, access to this information, and hopefully people like the World Bank and governments that are going to invest billions of dollars into electrification projects can now make smarter decisions on how they are going to do this. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Org, yeah. Worldatnight.org.
Awesome. Oh, questions, come back. Questions. Repeat the question and keep the mic close to your mouth.
Okay. The question is, were we self-contained here or did we work with other teams? We were basically self-contained, yeah. We escaped for lunch, but we were basically working from here, yeah.
So how are you going to, in the next step in this, how are you going to be able to decide what best tools to use?
So the question is, how, using this information, can we decide what is the best source of electricity? So there are various ways to do this. Essentially, you can actually know what the costs are of the transmission line. So, the rule of thumb, extra mile of transmission costs about $1 million, right? Depending on where you are, of course, but that's about the cost. You know, if you have a certain amount of solar insolation, you can actually know, knowing the efficiency of solar panels, which is about 50%, let's say, you can actually calculate what are the costs per kilowatt hour in that given location. You know how far you are from roads, from a port, to calculate what a diesel generator would cost to provide the same amount of kilowatt hours. So you can basically calculate, given the options that you have, and choose what is the best option for that given location. Compare those costs and then select one of them.
Level of effort to get.
What is the level of effort to get to that point? I think if we had another day, we could get a couple of options costed. We're very close already with the solar. You know, people have done this for diesel, so you know it's possible to do that. It's you know a matter of hours. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
OpenROV is up. Planet Pong is on deck. It's been quietly working.
Sure. Yes. Okay, so adapter. That's your power.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yes. Yeah. We got the whole team.
Well, things go out.
Yeah.
All right.
The problem is first.
Part of the team, actually. We had a number of people we're still waiting for. So. All right. So first of all, I want to thank everyone, the whole team. It was really fun working with everybody all weekend. We had a ton of people who were interested in our challenge and provided a lot of great support. Also want to thank the other people who kind of stopped by and helped out throughout the weekend, people who asked questions. But a big thank you to all the organizers. I've tried to put on weekends like this before, and I know how hard it is. I can't imagine doing it on 25 locations. So we can give everyone a round of applause for the organizers. We had a lot of people, as you can see, but we also tried to get a lot done. So our mentality going into the weekend was first who, then what. So we wanted to see who was interested in our challenge and then see what we could do from there. So we did a number of different things. One of the first things we did was power conditioning, and Eric can tell you a little bit more about that.
Thanks, David. Just to remind you, we've got this ROV, remotely operated vehicle submarine, and we can use it to explore deep underwater regions. And it's got a lot of fancy technology on board. We hope that there can be more fancy technology. A lot of that fancy technology requires very clean power, and when our battery packs are powering the motors, it's hard to do that. So with Ken, I don't know if he's here.
You're back here.
Oh, okay, cool.
Sitting in the background.
Yeah.
I'm a background guy.
So we designed it. We designed a power conditioning circuit which allows the sloppy 12 volts that are powering the motors to run the computer, but if we have a low power when we're using all the motors, it then takes it from a 9-volt battery instead, just like how a hospital has a backup generator. And so if you're kind of technical and you can understand these oscilloscope drawings, I think they're really cool. That top yellow line is the ROV power, the 12-volt power that makes the motors move. And then the lower blue line that's what's powering the computer, and that needs to stay really flat. The computer's kind of a princess that has to have everything right. And so that fall that happens when the voltage is pulled down is really bad. That would cause our computer to reset. So we designed this circuit, and I'm so excited when we saw this. That now is a flat line. The blue line is completely flat. That means that we're staying right at our nominal voltage, and the computer wouldn't restart. So that was a huge thing. We got that done first day within the course of a few hours of figuring out how the circuit should be designed. And the next was software. I talked about you. So this has been really amazing, especially with the help of Simon, who came on, who's an amazing programmer, and also the other guys who aren't here right now, who've been doing some of the Linux stuff. We started trying to make this a lot more capable. Flying an ROV is like playing a video game, and if you can explore with an ROV like you can play a video game, you can do some amazing stuff. And so making that interface better is important. We got it so we could, from a web server computer, drive the ROV around using a joystick controller. And I think we actually have a demo of doing that. So again, the entire ROV is hosting its interface from a web server. There's no software on your computer. You just plug it in, log into an IP. And here's a demo of being able to use a joystick controller to control the motors. So let's just let that video go.
So I think command right now from the browser. You can see on here that the gamepad is not attached, so we're able to keep working to go forward. So you see 255 and 5128.
Top light camera work there.
Okay, so forward and back.
So we're just showing different values here that are coming in from pressing buttons on the keyboard. This is where it gets cool. Plugging in a joystick, look at that red thing. It says that the joystick's been plugged in.
This is just a web browser, any modern web browser on the right-hand side. So you don't have to have any software that you work on the client side. Just log into the ROV. And it loads the software.
Proportional.
Awesome. Okay.
So what was really fun about that was that with the like the PS2 or Xbox style joystick, you could get proportional control out of it versus what we were getting before, which was just like a binary full forward or pull back. You could actually get like a creep forward, creep back, turn slowly.
So one of our big goals has always been to get kids outside. Instead of playing video games inside, take them out outdoors and explore kind of nature. And we think integrating this game controller is a big step in that direction. And so the next thing we did, this is a request we get all the time, is does this thing take water samples? So we did we've made a couple prototypes of water samplers. We started off with the Suborbital model right here, just to kind of prototype it and get it.
We can demo it too.
We can demo it too.
Yeah, let's do it.
The idea is we want to capture a column of water. So we designed some sort of a mechanism, a trigger mechanism. And what we want to do is close these balls on either side of it, and then we can bring it back up. So right now we'll just cut the wire. Would you do the honors? Simple, right? So this is a prototype. This is MacGyver here. Thank you, Anya. And Anya and I worked on this a bunch. And then that moved on to one that would be more practical for actually deploying the ROV. It's a little hard to arm, so we'll just kind of show it here. Basically. Oh, I forgot about that. This goes quick, so watch quickly. Do not blink. All right, go ahead. 2, 1. So there we go. Simple action. But we could go down. Remember we told you about that cave we want to explore? There might be gold in. We don't know. What if we went down in the cave, stirred up some silt, and then took a water sample? Saw if there was gold. Or what other cool things can you do there? And then last, you guys, Andrea and Anya have to take the credit for this. This is awesome. Our ROV is blue, which is the best color for seeing it in the water. And so we also came up with some pretty awesome designs. You can put neon vinyl on top. Let's see. And so this is what we came up with.
Style points.
Thank you, guys.
Questions? The last thing is we prototyped all this stuff here. So we made all this at Tech Shop. We used the laser cutter primarily to make the mount. But again, thank you to Tech Shop and the sponsors for providing all the support.
Yeah. So what are the next steps?
Yeah, if you want to Oh yeah, so yeah, he asked what the next steps are. There's not one, there's probably 20. We keep on getting the ROV capable of doing more and more stuff. Only in the last few weeks have we gotten to where we can put it in the water and drive it around. This is where it gets really exciting. Now we can start using things like computer vision to do some really amazing science. Like I mentioned before, detect this invasive species of shelled animal, follow that lobster. So there's some cool things doing there. Making it more video game-like and make the user interface, the kind of stuff that, like Simon, for instance, will program with the joystick interface, getting onboard computers that you can plug multiple cameras into. And that's not even starting to talk about hardware. We made this water sampler, but what other things can we put in a little payload launcher, a robot arm, a metal detector? This is the point that we wanted to get to. We've been working almost a year kind of developing OpenROV, but right now is the cusp where all of a sudden we have a platform and we can give it to the world. We can say, this is what we've done so far, what can you do? So it's all open source, completely open hardware. We think that telerobotics has huge potential as a tool for exploration, and we want to see what people can do with it. That's a good question. The question was, how do we communicate with the ROV? It has a tether. Radio doesn't travel very well through water, especially at high frequencies that you need for video. So there's this very thin little tether. It's just two twisted pairs of wire. And that's thin enough that kind of like a spider spinning a web, we can just deploy this tiny little tether down behind the ROV. And then that attaches to a computer. And that small tether actually, we found out a way of hosting 10-base Ethernet over it. So basically, it's just an Ethernet connection. We plug it into our laptop and log into the IP of the ROV. And just like logging into your favorite video game, the ROV comes up and you can drive it around. Yeah, and that's actually, this ties into your what's next question. Right now we have network control. We can control it over the Ethernet network. But what we're trying to do, obviously where we're going with this, is imagine if it's not just at the end of your computer, but you just plug it into the cloud. Then suddenly you could be in the United States and driving an ROV around Barbados or something. And I think that's really important. Picture how much people they know about coral reefs, for instance, that are getting damaged, but they don't really, it's not tangible. But if you can drive this ROV around and you always know where that hermit crab always hangs out, and one day it's gone, suddenly that's a lot more applicability. It's the whole world at your fingertips.
I know you have a website out there, so what are your plans to kind of continue collaboration worldwide?
Absolutely. Already there's more than close to 300 members across 28 countries who are working on OpenROV. There's a group in Athens, Greece, that's participating. There's some people in the United States, various colleges. What we hope is that if we document everything well enough, people can build their own. And what I envision, something that really gets me excited, is how you can browse the web and see cool YouTube videos. What if there are YouTube videos of someone down in the deep and they see some weird creature and they don't know what it is? Can we get those people in the community? And then can we also get scientists and archaeologists saying, commenting and saying, well, this is what that might be. Oh, that's really important. See if you can find more of those and tell me where you found it. So international collaboration is important because there's a lot of diversity in what you can look at. And so getting those videos and that data from different parts of the world is extremely important.
And just to add on to that, so Eric's talked a lot about the exploration aspect, that's big for us, but it's also important. The education aspect is also important. So, we took this out last week and we went and explored just a reservoir behind Eric's house. And you should see us all crowded around the video trying to see what we're going to see in the bottom of this reservoir. This has the potential to spark this kind of love for exploration in kids at the high school and junior high levels, and even college and beyond. So that's another important aspect for us.
Thank you guys all very much.
Okay, so next we have Planet Pong. And then we're going to do, let's see, I need a pen.
Many DVIs right here. Yes, perfect. Okay.
Next we're going to do misconceptions, because that makes me laugh. And that's really what this is all about, isn't it? No? I think I'm in the wrong place. That person here?
This is stand-up comedy.
Okay, awesome, good.
Stand-up comedy, right?
Hey, no, sit-down comedy.
Okay.
Stand-up comedy.
Hey.
last-minute idea. I started browsing around the site for projects, but it seems like pretty much most people have other groups have started doing a lot of work already. So I thought that the best fit was kind of just go off my own tangent with Planet Pong. Planet Pong is a global game that's out of this planet. And so how does it work? It's not responding. The friendly is odd.
Not responding at all, though. Hmm? Here, just a second. It's not responding at all. Let's just do, yeah, let's just do,
So players are the astronaut versus the Earthling. So originally I had planned for both ends to be on mobile, but I found out recently that astronauts currently can't have iDevices and Android in space because they're not yet, I guess, approved. So I guess on the astronaut side, it will be PC or web browser, PC, not web browser, and then on the Earthling side, it will be mobile. So the idea is that the astronaut throws a ball at the planet. That's kind of the thing, and the Earthlings play catch. So those near the point that the ball impacts come back if they can catch it. So I guess kind of the greater purpose of this game is that it conveys sort of engagement of the citizens so that people can have a personal connection with space. And this happens in the mutual shared time of both the astronaut and the citizen. In a way, it's kind of like correspondence game, but there's the one real-time element that happens when the ball is sent, and then when any n number of people attempt to receive the ball, kind of throw it back. And well, I like to think of this as a new global sport. It's also like a distance-free game of catch. Through the cloud, which basically conveys the data, the signal send, and from the outer space, web browser or PC interface to the mobile interface, so you have this virtual signal sending the ball. And this connects you to the astronaut. And now the demo. Okay, so I haven't really had time to work on the UI so much. So the idea is that with the right data, we can actually get the orientation of the planet and the spin with respect to the space station or the space shuttle where the astronaut is at. And so right now I'm kind of just simulating a kind of hypothetical spin of the planet. Obviously that's happening a lot faster than what the planet would spin in real time. But the idea is that basically the astronaut, person in space, just kind of clicks a point and then just kind of shoots a ball there. And then once the ball is shot, it hits somewhere on Earth. So actually, let me get a better point so we're closer to where we are. A little bit faster. And let's see, San Francisco. Oh, okay, right. About here. So right now I've set the radius pretty large, and just to make sure it goes through here and. And now I'm going to show you the mobile one, the one that consumers are using. And it's actually on both iOS and Android. But I'm showing the iOS version because I don't have an Android tablet with me, and I guess the easiest way for you to see it is kind of just pull this and show you, unless it's the way I guess you like to have the input in. Okay. Right. And ready. There we go. Okay. So on the client side, it's kind of very, very basic augmented reality where basically you see a camera and then a ball comes by if you are at the right location. So right now, and it has to have Wi-Fi connection. So the first few seconds, it's kind of waiting. And once you get to the beach of the ball starts kind of just flying by at you, and you kind of have to touch the ball, and then it kind of just goes right by. And then it kind of pings back. But the second leg is actually, this is where the correspondence feature, where it's the next time is not as time dependent as the time that the first signal is sent. So hopefully that sort of makes sense. And yeah, this is kind of just a rough idea of a kind of new sort of game to be played with people in space versus people on Earth. This obviously defies physics in the sense that the speed of light, and you can't really have something instantaneous like that. Well, actually, sort of, kind of, because it's kind of the Wi-Fi. Assuming that you have, I think Ethernet and Wi-Fi in space to send the signal out through. But right, so hopefully this is food for thought or something for a new sort of game. Right. So what determines how long it takes for the ball to get to there? Right now, it's pretty straightforward. Whenever you click on the planet to aim the ball, the signal gets sent to the cloud, basically by a web server, and then people with their mobile device, basically the multiplayer server that pings the web server back. So I guess it depends on the speed of your internet connection, Wi-Fi or Ethernet, whatever you have connected. But I guess in the future, it could be, say, physically accurate, where, say, it's a baseball ball, and it actually goes at, say, the average speed of a baseball or something, where actually it would actually take quite a bit of time, and that would be long-term correspondence distances, I guess. But basically, it's assuming that your internet, whenever you're sending a signal, the server side can always delay the receival to whatever arbitrary time that you want the realistic, ball and travel time to be. So. Thank you. Misconceptions. Yay! After this, we will have open data. Hi, so my name is Cindy Lee. I'm a designer. Dirk is our prototyper, and Amit is also a prototyper, and we've got one remote worker, which is Dirk's wife, in Sunnyvale. She was helping us research the answers. So our project was visualize the all too common astronomy solar system misconceptions, which was a mouthful for us, so we decided to rebrand it and call it Daily Myths. The idea is we made little trivia cards with that you can flip over and.
Yes. So what we built was actually a full website, and it's online right now. So if you want to go to dailymyths.org, you can actually play with it. There might be a couple of little browser quirks because, well, it's hack day, but you can play with it now. And the idea is to have those misconceptions like this Earth is the center of the universe and things like that just out of the world. So when you go to the page, you will get a random myth. This is number 13, and if you just decide if you believe in it or not, it will just flip around and will give you a nice, informative little text on if this is actually true or not, and it will give you either an image or an animation. It will give you the knowledge to actually get rid of this myth.
So each of the cards have a I want to learn more about, and that was where we got the answers from. So, and then it'll go to the next. So Dirk made this one and with the animation, and Amit will here.
So I work on essentially an app that gives the moon phases and solves the question of whether the moon phases are the same in all countries. And the answer is the moon phases are not the same. They differ in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. And so I overlaid essentially the way the moon phases change in the northern hemisphere, which is right here. And then if you click, you get some information on the lunar phases in the northern hemisphere, where we picked up this information from. And then similarly, if you go down here, you'll get information about. Oops. Yeah. There should be information about that one too, but maybe we can go to the next one where we talk about something called lunar libration. And lunar libration is where the moon appears to grow in size as it changes phases, and that's because right there. That's because of the orbit of the moon around the Earth, and you see that the moon is actually kind of growing and then becoming smaller. And then again here, there's some more information about lunar libration.
Right, so the project is, of course, on GitHub, and we want everybody to contribute to that, because at the moment we have it in English and parts of it in German, but we wanted to have it in every single language, so nobody has to be stupid.
And,
So, we'll start. Sorry.
So Dirk's wife has been translating it in German as we've been working along.
Yeah, and going forward, we wanted to come up with some more kind of games for kids. So one such one is like something like this, where you can take a challenge like maybe level 2, and then decide okay, maybe this one goes here and it says no, try something else. So we want to build some simple games for kids so that they can learn what the lunar phases are.
All right, thank you. Questions? Yes.
How extensible is your framework? In other words, if other people have other science challenge questions, can they integrate that into your environment?
Perfect question. I couldn't have prepared it better. We build it in a way so it's not just for anything about the NASA related, but we actually build it and named it intentionally just general daily myth. So it can be easily extended. You just go to GitHub, clone it, and just keep adding new questions. It's a very easy template, so you can extend that today and it will go online in a minute. Yes?
What does it say if you ask it to take your
It does not answer that yet, but you should add that. Oh, sorry, the question was what it says when it's asked about if there's any aliens out there. Add that. If you know that.
Well,
yes. I didn't catch that. Can you repeat that, sorry?
So in addition to doing what you're doing, have you considered taking content that you kind of communicate to people, giving that slide form for people to community to make their local screens?
That's a very good idea. It's not oh sorry, the question was if we can have the data that we're showing here in an abstract format so it can be loaded into other systems. At the moment, no. At the moment, the data actually lives in static templates. And that actually is something that would be a nice next step to trim it down to a single database and expose that. Yeah, great question. Any more questions? Yes. It's a combination, so the basic application is PHP, and we add some JavaScript on top, so it's actually fully accessible without JavaScript as well. We just layer everything on top, and it works on basically everything. All the animations you see is just HTML5 and CSS. So if you have a really old browser, sorry, but if you have a new browser, it works.
And then going forward, we wanted to build a web service which will give tides for any given address. So just like in maps.google, you can give an address and get directions. We want to be able to give an address like maybe, some place with a coast like maybe San Diego, California, and get when are the high tides, when are the low tides. Maybe people who like to surf will find this information useful.
question? No? Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, so more open data. Okay, and then we'll have Pineapple, and then we'll have ISS Live, and then we'll wander around and maybe sing a song while the judges will read and judge you. Okay.
Good. Hey, I'm Alexander Schuster, and I also worked on the open data. And I think Matt did a really good job about describing how big the problem is NASA is generating terabytes of data. So his solution was kind of focusing in on how you present that data once you have a record, and you know that you're interested in Kepler data, and but you don't really know what all is in the Kepler data. So my take on this was a little bit towards the other end of the spectrum, where it was to expand the metadata that's available on data.nasa.gov and make it programmatically accessible so that developers can find the data that they want and pull it down, get it onto their servers, and then work with it, probably using his solution. So this leverages existing technologies. There's something called YQL, which is a way to query anything that's on the web and extract data from it. It's in a SQL-like syntax, which most developers are familiar with. So the way YQL works is you can create a custom data definition that explains what types of data are available. So this is that custom data definition for data from the SDO. They have pictures that are uploaded every day that show activity on the sun. So if you wanted to programmatically pull down new pictures without making copies on your local system, without a custom database that's just going to grow and replicate terabytes of data that NASA's already saving, you can use this to just get the URL for the image or the resource and pull it down, do your data analysis, and then get rid of it. You don't have to save it locally, just save the output. So we've got canned data here because fortunately there's a robots.txt that prevents us from going over the data in real time. But basically, you get the data and then you can just perform, well, you can use the keys that are defined in the table, a little bit of JavaScript, and query away. So if we were interested in getting images where the timestamp is midnight, we do that using the custom data table, and we get back some images. Yay! But if we're interested in getting all the images, again, we get data back. And it's just a small XML file that can be hosted on any publicly accessible web server. Yeah, you can set up a formal language specifying the parameters that are required for each set of data, right? Because sometimes things are not just integers or strings that make sense. They're specific to the project. So the project would, each project that wanted to participate in this would create their own XML file, right, that describes what are the metadata attributes, date that something was uploaded or whoever uploaded it. What are the metadata attributes that a third-party developer might query on, and they save that in a publicly accessible file. And then a third-party developer can use that YQL console or just HTTP, and they can query the server and get back URLs for all that data. So yeah, the idea is it reduces friction in getting to the data. It doesn't really help you if you don't know what to do once you've got the data. That's what you from. Yeah, and as you can see right now, I was poking around, it's like, okay, I want to get the data from this place. What do I do? Oh, there are many ways to access the data. Okay, and that was really what kicked off the idea that we just do metadata. Any questions? Hey?
Can you explain how difficult it would be for part of NASA to create that table?
So, how difficult would it be for NASA to create the table? It would not be difficult. I have a bachelor's degree, and and no experience actually with open data tables. I've never created one before, and I was able to create one that queries successfully in 24 hours. So, rocket scientists, it should be easy peasy.
What limitations do you see for my?
So the question is, what limitations do I see? So, I mean, this does, okay, it requires participation, right, from any projects at NASA that want to be in it. It's active participation, and it does require topical knowledge. You have to say, hey, these are the parameters that people might be interested in with our data. So you can't just contract it out to a third party and have them give you a generic table for everything. That's not going to be useful. So it requires some participation from people who are knowledgeable about the data, and it requires maintenance. You can't just set the table up and leave it, because maybe those parameters change over time. So you need to keep it up to date.
So if the metadata is already stored with the data itself, right? So, and then you have a format that's subscribing, how does that couple with your content?
That really is, so I noticed that a lot of the data is temporally bound, or it's in a directory hierarchy that describes it. The metadata is there, right? It is self-describing, but it's in the directory structure of the web server. And so the XML file really just takes all of that data and it makes it explicit. And it says these are the keys and these are the acceptable values. And so really the two are already bound. No, okay. Thank you.
Okay, Pineapple, you have a little bit more time. You okay with that? Next, we're going to go for payload, and then Planet Finder, and then Pineapple. And if you are not in those three, and you haven't presented, and you want to, you should come find me. Okay, so payload, Planet Finder, Pineapple, because I believe in alliteration. Yes, they do. Get it? Mm-hmm. And then it's waiting. Yes? This one? This press. Alright, click on find. Alright. I press the button. Ah! Ha ha ha. Ah!
We're reliant on.
Of course. And then it's therapy. Therapy.
Hi, my name's Randy Reese. I'm on the experiment deployment capsule team with Meredith, my lovely assistant, and Jay. Where's Jay? Oh, he's in the back. Jay, come on up if you want. No, shaking his head no. Okay. We came up with a name, but not a logo, so we only had two days. We chose the challenge overview called Suborbital Payload for Citizen Science, and this is the exposed to space version. The goal is to build a small capsule exposed to space. It must advance the goal of citizen science, is adding to the database of human knowledge, and the capsule must be replicable by other citizen scientists. So it has to be low cost and buildable in a high school machine shop, and we wanted to make it open source. So this is an opportunity for young people to get involved in science and to get them engaged and excited. And this works as they get older and come around a bunch of times. So the flight overview is there's a vehicle called the Lynx that the Citizens in Space Organization has contracted to fly some missions. The Lynx is built by a company called X-Core Aerospace. They fly out of Mojave Air and Spaceport, so it's close by. And the experiment deployment capsule is to be ejected at the apogee at 100 kilometers above ground. So next slide. So what we wanted to develop was an inexpensive, reusable module that can serve as a platform for high-altitude microgravity experimentation. And after doing some research on some of the facilities that are available, we're a lot cheaper if we can make it work. And what this does is it creates a platform that students can use to do their own experimentation. So what we're hoping to provide is a small capsule that has a small environment, has some power. It offers exposure to microgravity and to solar radiation and very fast descent, at least for the first 56 kilometers, I think, 56 miles. Next slide. So we think that we can make an inexpensive, reusable, and easy-to-make module that can be used as a platform for this experimentation. We can attain twice the altitude of weather balloons. We also feel that this can be used with weather balloons if necessary. That's a cheaper way to get stuff up. I think we can provide valuable data for some of the research going on for high-altitude solar and wind power generation efforts. It can, of course, be used for the biological microgravity experimentation and for meteorological data collection. So the device has to fit into the cowling of the ship. It's a small place. There's two cubby holes, basically, in the back of the ship. They're roughly 15 centimeters by 20 centimeters in diameter. There's a product called a CubeSat form factor, which is the spacecraft appears to be built around a lot of things, but for these two cubby holes, this is the platform and the structure that they're using for that space. So there's a company that creates this product called a CubeSat, and it fits within those spaces for multiple sizes, and they're very expensive. So what they provide in that space is 24 volts with 1 amp, and that's for payloads that need power to get to the point where they throw them out of the spaceship. So what we're planning to provide is 12 volts at 1 amp for any project. We have in our capsule a small computer, a small power supply, and some sensors. We want it to be water resistant, but not waterproof because of the flight plan that this takes. It most likely would fall in the desert, so we don't really have to worry about waterproofness. The device would start falling at about 330,000 feet to 60 miles up, and the fall to 20,000 feet is free fall without any friction. So we're estimating now that the speed that this thing will fall is about 3,500 miles an hour. So the capsule has to be developed in a way where it can withstand that speed and the temperatures and still stay upright. And we want a low center of gravity so that we can assure that we have a vertical attitude, a positive vertical attitude in flight. So we also supply with our computer a GPS and radio transmission because you need to recover the thing. So it comes down, it falls for roughly 3 minutes. It covers 56 miles in 3 minutes. And then the last 4 miles take about an hour with the parachute that we have. And the sensors that we're including on the ship are they'll tell us through logging the time of the ejection from the spacecraft, the speed of descent over time, so we'll get a graph of how the speed through the accelerometer, how it picks up and slows down as it hits gravity, or I'm sorry, as it hits atmosphere. The attitude of descent over time to make sure that the thing is staying vertical. The temperature inside and outside the capsule. We want to make sure that it's not that we have some controls over what the temperature is inside the capsule itself. What time the parachute deployed, and the parachute has 2 phases in the deployment, so we need to know both of those, and what time it stops moving, basically, when it hits the ground. So we did a fair amount of research on what products are available and what products fulfill the requirements. So we put an Arduino with a GPS and GPRS device. We've got the weight and power and price variables for the devices. We also found the sensors and solenoids and other circuitry that we need. We found a battery pack that would give us the power that we need and that we would supply to the payload. It's a 12 volts for 1 amp hour, basically. There's some weight and price for cables. The casing right now is, we're looking at ABS and acrylic casing. We'll probably need something on the bottom like cable for heat dissipation. And there's a parachute that you can buy for $30, but it's very heavy. But we needed that size in order to slow this thing down. We didn't want it to go, it's going to be about 2 kilos. This size parachute will slow a 6-pound object down to 4 miles an hour in atmosphere. So it seemed to be the right size. And we need a parachute ignition system to basically push the parachute out of the device. So with that weight, set of weight parameters, that leaves us at 1 kilo for a payload for a student project or any other project that people want to fly. And the total cost we have is about $460, say $500. The product, the CubeSat product for this exact, well not exact, but the same size and power and compute facilities is roughly $15,000. So we're for less than 1/30 of the cost of the CubeSat product. So this is a really bad drawing of what the thing might look like. On the very bottom is the tray that the electronics and the battery will fit in. And there'll be a mesh in there for mounting payload. And the calculations of weight we have, hopefully we'll put the center of gravity near the bottom, trying to direct this in a downward motion. There's no real air to use for friction for guidance, so little fins and things like that really won't help. So we're hoping that minor flaring, rounding of the corners on the bottom, and this low center of gravity will help us keep this thing upright. The payload compartment is in the center. Right now we have a dark ABS or PVC plastic, but it could be a clear shell for solar exposure, radiation exposure. And the parachute base is on the top, and there's basically 2 small, there's the main parachute, the minor parachute, that would be, if the minor parachute is ejected first to give it somewhat of a pull in a vertical state, and then also to slow it a bit, because it's going at 3,500 miles an hour. We want to slow it down before we extract the main chute. So the next stage is we want to build a mechanically functional prototype. We have to test it to make sure it doesn't fall apart. There's a thing called a shake table. The devices that go into space need to pass. And it's apparently a difficult thing to do, but I think we can put something together that will survive it. We also need to prototype the electronics, but they're really simple electronics. There's not a lot of complexity here. It's basically reading sensors, logging the data, and triggering a couple of solenoids at the right time for a sequence, of course. We want the capsule to survive the landing or the crash. And then we need to integrate the electronic prototype with the mechanical prototype for the testing. And one of this is to get the device in space. If we can get through the testing for this phase, then the phase after this will be how do we get it to survive the descent. So there'd be parachute testing. We'd have to open an aircraft and get FAA approval and toss it out and see if it lands properly. So what are our assumptions? We need the wind to be blowing inland because we don't want to do an ocean retrieval of a $500 device.
Speed.
There's a low probability of water landing, daytime good weather flight, and we need cooperation from the aviation people. That's it. Any questions?
When you calculated the cost, did you calculate the cost of the light and get up forward? Or?
No, we're going to be looking for corporate sponsors for that.
But quite often the kind of experiment, the cost is actually getting up there and to be able to get a drop, right?
That's true. Are you talking about the testing for the device? I have friends with planes. I'm going to bend their ears to take me out and toss this thing out. So, any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Good.
Okay, so I actually lied. We have another one that I missed. But before we do that, we're all going to stand up. Because we need to. And you've all heard me humming Willy Wonka, right? I'm going to make you sing. I totally am. You're not going to sing. That's okay. You realize that if we all sing... Yes, if we all sing together, it will actually sound good. If you don't believe me, just try it. Haha. Okay, so you all remember this song, right? Come with me, and we'll be. You remember this, yes? Yes. I'll sing it with you if you remember. Does this make sense? Do we need to watch the YouTube clip first?
Yeah.
Okay. Where did I put that? You're just stalling for time. That's what you're doing. Okay. Let me play this. Do. Okay. Oh, and of course there's no sound because why would we pay attention to what all the lessons we're doing? Do. If it works. There we go. So don't sing it yet, but think about it with these lyrics, okay? There's Charlie freaking out.
Make it.
Come with me, and you'll be in a world of your imagination. And come, and you'll see into your imagination.
Okay. Are we ready for this? I'm going to set it back, and we're going to do it again. We're just going to do the first verse. We'll do the rest later. Is everybody ready? I know I am. Oh yeah, I'm so excited. Okay. I'm always excited. It's not. Okay. So these are our words. I'm going to swap between these two windows really fast. Here we go. I'm not going to sing into the mic for your sake.
No! Wait! Let's close that. Okay. Let's close Twitter first. There we go. Okay.
Come with me, and you'll be in a
World of your imagination. I totally messed this up, just like everything else.
and you'll see into your imagination.
Now we're going to start. No, we're not.
With us,
No, we're not.
traveling
It's our next verse.
Will be the next verse. I'm sorry. It's been like this the whole weekend, as you know.
If you want to move paradise, simply try and you will.
Anything will do it. Wanna change the world? There's nothing to it. Oh, look, there's more! Now that I have you on board! I don't know if it's gonna work. Okay. We'll do more later after I've figured more out. I just wanted to get you all standing up. Yay!
We'll do more after I actually figure out how to work all that. I just wanted to get you all standing up and talking.
Post the lyrics to the pirate pad.
We'll post the lyric to the pirate pad and then you all can follow along. Okay, so next we have open data. And then we have two more, I promise. I know it's toasty again. I adore you all. Let's do this, okay? Open data.
Hey!
No, don't insert lyrics into it while I'm standing here. It's terrible.
I got that. Sure thing.
Hi, my name's Leah Vaughn, and I took on Fragile Oasis, which was a mapping challenge using data set generated out of an existing initiative, which is to reach out to people around the globe to encourage them to come together. People post projects that they think are very interesting in a number of subject areas. Fragile Oasis map a difference. Go ahead. Yep. So it's an interactive to build the challenge, the tasks were to build an interactive map to utilize that database with community, education, energy, environment, food, health, peace, research, and water, and that the user should ideally be able to do connections based on their location as well as their area of interest. So I apologize for the screenshots, but I hope that would go a little bit faster. What I developed is available as a web app at arcgis.com. I need to download that and play with it yourself. But you can also look at it. You can also look at it if you on your smartphone if you download the free ArcGIS app for Android or iPhone. The data set was really interesting. A couple of people have alluded to broad challenges with the data. What that red is and the green is are that the community and the community challenges in particular were very resonant with people on the ones which they posted most. So this is the map of the topical areas that was generated all around the world, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an idea what happens when you drill down on the clean database. I'll talk about that towards the end. So next slide. So now we're looking at the border between New York State and Canada, and we're going to focus on that little purpley dot at the top in Ottawa. And if you were to click on that, by scrolling down, you would now come up with an information box with links in it. It is a group of women who have all won Nobel Prizes, and they've come together to improve the condition of women and girls around the world. And if you click on that in that little box, the next screen, which is that expanded, you get images of the women and the Nobel laureates, you get a link to their website, and you get a link to video. The app also will let you compare, sorry about that, let you compare both the programs where they are at, one by one, with the project type side by side, so you can go back and forth a little bit more easily. And that was interesting to play with. The next one, the challenges, a number of people have alluded to already. The legacy data sets, NASA, data.gov, and others are very rich. And I think they're going to be even more important moving forward as a foundation, especially when going with combining the growing number of data sets, GIS and otherwise, released for public use by federal, state, and local governments. But many of these rich data sets are not automatically usable. Making this data, bringing it to a condition of mapping took the better part of 12 hours, and it wasn't that large. And yet there's great content in it. And the goal to make it interactive is with all these other programs is to engage people, help them visualize the data, and to link them to further action points and opportunities to participate and understand. So one of the lovely sayings that's attached to the site, Fragile Oasis site, is connecting space and Earth. Learn, act, make a difference. It is a great call to join people all around the globe looking for opportunities to build communities and making life better. And thank you.
Yay! Exactly 4 minutes. Come back. Come back. Do you have questions?
Oh, hi. Sorry.
What I'm interested in knowing is, what did you build and what was produced? Does Fragile Oasis do in ArcGIS?
Fragile Oasis has existed for several years. And people have uploaded projects. I'm not the expert on Fragile Oasis. The expert on Fragile Oasis happens here. And people build projects and edit information. The format looks like it was iterative and was never reconciled. So the ability to actually display the data that they were populating in their questionnaires and links wasn't visible, usable, or linkable in a real clear way. So some of them had maybe just a country, but the location was in the text. Some of them had latitude, longitude. Some of them were wrong. Some of them had a zip code. And so the task for GIS, which is ArcGIS, is the longest. ESRI is the largest and oldest of the GIS companies, California company, and Redlands. But the challenge for that in particular, whether it's the online platform or the full professional program, is that everything has to be pretty exactly. And that turned out to be a worthwhile challenge, but nonetheless a time-consuming challenge as well. And to add some other pieces to it now with video and stuff together that many of the sites had had added to their programs, which I thought made it more interesting to understand what they're doing.
Could you say the next step would be to modify the input page so that you don't have to add it all?
Yeah, I think one of the things, it's great that people wanted to add it, but to at least have some core fields forcing, especially in terms of location, forcing them to respond in a given format. To give them the space to talk about what they're doing and stuff, I think is great, and that was very, very interesting to hear people talk about themselves and what it meant to participate. But in terms of just the location, getting it concrete, moving forward, I think that would make it easier to bring it back in with some of these other legacy data layers from NASA, from data.gov, from the World Bank, from local government. But it's worth the effort, and very appreciative of everybody who made it.
Planet Finder, and then pineapples.
This is good.
Right, we're ready. Oh.
Planet Finder and then pineapple. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I like the pineapple, but okay.
Hi, so we are also looking at Kepler data, and we're doing something a little bit different. So the idea is that right now in my real life, I work on a lot of websites. We send terabytes of traffic back and forth across the web very quickly, and we use APIs all over the place. And currently, the Kepler API kind of goes like this. You log onto a website and you submit a username, and then 15 minutes later, they send you a password. Then you log onto a different website with the username and password, and you select the number of data points that you want. And then you wait while they gzip it and FTP it to a different website. And then you download all of those, strip it out of the proprietary NASA format, and then you look through the data. This is not useful for a lot of the applications that developers want, because if you're on an iPhone, you probably don't want to go through that entire experience. So what we've done is created something that looks a lot like maps to begin with, and the resolution's a little bit different. Go ahead. And which is, you know, a table that's searchable. So if you want to look at all the SOFI data, for instance, you can just type in that and instantly search this. But the more interesting part of what we did was the machine-to-machine data. What we've done is created searchable fields that are exportable in JSON and in XML. And what you can do is you can just build what you want and keep building things into it. So for example, here are all the 2012 discoveries. And if you go back and change the query string, you can get all the 2011 discoveries. So the idea here is that we can build something that other computers can use to download the Kepler data and instantly use them in other applications. It's not super interesting for the end user, but it's very interesting for programmers who want to build applications.
Okay, any questions?
Did you solve the whole, how did you solve the whole, give me username, password, go to this, go to that?
Wait.
But are you basically, you take all that gzip stuff and are you putting that on another?
So what I've done is I've downloaded all of that, and we spent 6.5 hours ripping up the proprietary format, putting it into the database, and then half an hour writing the application that actually displays it.
And how much of the NASA data have you been able to get?
100% of the data that is not still reserved for NASA scientists. And it works right now today. Questions?
Yeah, one more question. Is this going to be available like on programmable web? How will you advertise this so that engineers can actually use it?
So it is right now open source on GitHub, and I'm going to be pushing it up to EC2 instance so that other people can query it. The next steps for this are probably more interesting. We can get visualization data, and then we can, like, once you have all of this very quickly, you can actually do predictions on the light curve data because you can push this into a computational set, with trivially instead of spending a lot of time fucking with the internal data formats. Yes.
Yeah. So does that work for all types of data you're publishing on NASA?
This is specifically for Kepler data. Building this is I wrote a generic search engine for this, so if anything else that you were to put in a similar database format, we would be able to get this out. But this is the exoplanet challenge. This is not the open data challenge, which I think everybody else who did that was quite clear that that is a huge project, not solvable.
Thanks.
Very cool. Okay. I have all those.
Which feed?
Our video feed.
The G Plus or the Ustream?
The Ustream?
Ustream is this one right here. It's that one down there. Not this one, but that one.
Alright.
Do you want to pause it and restart it? Is this?
Yeah.
It's going to go in
Okay. Is that the point that we get the screen?
Okay, my name is Dan, and I was the tech lead here in San Francisco, which means I just mostly got really frustrated with trying to figure out how we were going to do things, and that was accomplished. But the project was Pineapple, which I guess I should probably explain what the Pineapple project was as far as the challenge. Essentially, we have a problem with people that are growing fruits especially in third world. We started out with the concept of, if you're a farmer in a third world nation and you're not quite sure which one of the native plants to grow for this growing season, how do you make that decision? What's best for the area that you're in, and what's best for trying to get the best price for it so it can be more sustainable? What we discovered as we went through this is that it's more than just that one problem, though. We discovered that there were actually a number of teams that were looking at very similar problems, and it wasn't just a third world problem, it's also a first world problem. There were a team in the UK that was at the Met Office that was interested in doing the same challenge for people that are growing their own vegetables and fruit for bartering with other people or just for their own consumption. And so it wasn't just an issue for people that are sustainment farmers, but it was also an issue for people that are just interested in eating better and being able to be more self-sustaining. So we actually found there are quite a few teams that were working on this as we went along. And in fact, you can see that from the participants. It seemed as we started, the longer we went on, there were more people that kept showing up. It's all of a sudden, hey, there's a team over here in Chile that's working on this. What do you know? So it was really interesting that we had teams all over the world by the time we got rolling on this. We had ourselves here in San Francisco, had the team in the UK in Exeter, which we knew about early on, and so we were actually already doing tag team with them. They would do some development until they were ready to go to bed, and then they would pass it on to us and let us know what they got done, and we would carry the ball from there and then turn it back over to them. But we also had teams in San Domingo. There was a team in New York that was working a pricing issue. We didn't actually interact quite as much with New York. We talked to them a bit, and they're kind of like, well, we've already focused on this one specific problem, so we're going to just continue with that. But we did work with all the rest of them. We worked with Santiago. We worked with Nairobi. Nairobi was doing a mobile app. It was pretty amazing. So there were all these teams that we were interacting with, and we were regularly communicating with. And communication was an issue. We started out, of course, first we tried to use Pirate Pad. That didn't even work here in San Francisco, much less trying to communicate with the rest of the world. So we ended up trying to, mostly exchanging files from GitHub, and then using Skype chat and rather frequent Skype calls as well for teleconferencing. And that worked pretty well. And then, of course, email, Basecamp, and Google Docs for collaboration. At the high level, you can see this is our high-level architecture. Essentially, the heart of it is that decision maker I was telling you about. There's a module which is still needing to be worked on more. That's going to make that decision, okay, based on the growing conditions and on the price you're trying to get for your product, what should you plant and when should you plant it. And there are a bunch of different data sources for that. You've got cloud sources for it. You've got a database that we put together. Actually, a couple of the teams were working on developing a database using a database that we had started with that was developed before the start of the challenge. And then we also have to be able to interface with it not only with a web app, but a lot of these farmers, especially the third world nations, are going to be using things like a Nokia flip phone. So we need to be able to do an SMS interface as well. So we look at both parts of that problem. Okay, I already mentioned this, what the other teams did. Nairobi developed an Android app for commodity pricing, and they actually demonstrated it. Pretty cool tool. San Domingo and Santiago, they worked on building a database. Started with some of our data. They built a schema, built a database, and then they actually wrote a web interface to that so that you could explore some of the data. The
the Met Office, they had a great website, by the way, but they also were pretty focused on trying to do some climatology data, so they built a layer that you could display on a map. By default, it goes to Exeter. You can also choose other locations around the UK, but it's pretty much limited to the UK on the map. And then what we developed, we mostly put together the framework for where we are going to go, and we did work on some of the pieces like the SMS, I'll show you in a bit. And I'm actually going to turn it over at this point to Nick because he is our design architect and he did some excellent work on this.
Yes. So, this is a lot of the group. There was a Venn diagram of the needs to be used on every first book.
No.
Sorry.
Thank you. Yes.
So, yeah, Venn diagram. One side is first world, the other side is developing world. And basically, the common ground between everyone involved was a web platform, and then we could skew all of this to the needs of our users in the developing world via like an SMS platform. So if you're going on the internet, this is what you'd come into when you came onto our website, and finding where you are using your location sensors if you're blessed with an iPhone, or logging in using Google, basically being able to pick up where you left off. This is something that you come back to. And then the next screen is just a check. Basically, just verifying your location and the opportunity to check it again. Obviously, some people live in very rural areas, so you can check local landmarks, and then you have the flexibility to move the pin to more of your location. Probably just zip code if you're in Nigeria. The next big thing, which you get the SMS app, but you can see online, is the recommendations based on those are factors, whether your terrain, acidity levels. So this is basically, that's what we suggest, and then you can go on from that to learn more about each problem. And then if you wanted to navigate past the recommendations, this is what you come to. And you can see some of the decisions that are going, some of the variables which are factored in to make the decisions you can perform. So from this, you can start as a farmer from perspective of looking at the crop variety you want to do, or the date you want to harvest from. And then you can see like weather stats you need, terrain, the initial investment over the course of the harvest season, and then reach the market. It's important that if people are going to make this initial investment, that they knew where it was going to go afterwards. You don't end up with a situation where there's excess, crashing markets, prices drop. That's just a terrible thing we need to avoid. Also, this is a little thing, which is about if you plant one crop, it actually prepares the ground for the next crop, and then understanding that, building longevity, and then kind of plays back to the whole coming back. And then this is at the other end of the spectrum, which is tips and tricks when it comes to selling, to make sure that these buyers who are disconnected, like you've seen probably, are connected and informed as to what prices we pay, so they can when they go to the local merchant. Make sure we get that.
So one of the things we were also challenged with is we were trying to dealing with users who don't have access to either a smart device or internet, but they would still should be able to work with one of an interface to it. So one of our sponsors has an interface to MS. The Trovo, we integrated with that. So what it does is if you work with SMS app with your longitude and the latitude, the pH of the soil, and the rain in inches or millimeters here in this case, it will analyze that and send back a suggestion as to what it should be. So basically building an SMS interface to our decision-making engine. That's it.
So obviously this is a pretty complex tool, and it couldn't be done overnight or in 2 days, despite all the the magnitude of talent that we had around the world. And so there's a lot of next steps. The great part is the people that contributed to this project are really enthusiastic. Several of the participants worked 3 to 5 hours after their event ended because they didn't want to stop, and that was just really cool to see. We have already initiated some partnerships in Rwanda, Nicaragua, obviously the UK and the USA to pilot the tools. We want to go ahead and roll that out over the next few weeks. We want to continue to initiate key partnerships with institutions that have expressed interest in universities and actually augmenting the back-end database, which is proving to be quite an undertaking, but it obviously has a lot of value. We have gone ahead, I purchased a domain prior to coming here and put up a placeholder, but we went ahead last night and we developed a website called rootdemocracy.org, and it will actually allow you to register a community such as yourselves to continue working on this challenge and others. So it's a holding place for these types of challenges. Hopefully it will bridge us between Rock Event and Rock Event because there is so much enthusiasm in that office, and our partners want to continue this. We're hoping to reconvene globally. We have discussed virtual meetups, but we definitely want to continue this in a month, actually, in June 2012. Several of our participants have already registered for the event here in San Francisco, and we've been making plans for that. We want to encourage you to ask any questions, but also we want you to get involved if you think you might have a passion for this as well. So feel free to check out and join the community, even though it looks a little inappropriate. There at the bit.ly link, and we look forward to hearing your feedback and hopefully seeing you grow with us.
So it looks like we kind of looked at the problem of what to grow, when to sell the crop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what did you do in the back end in terms of giving you ideas when to sell the crop? Did you pull that in yet in terms of the market price, commodity market pricing, to be able to integrate it to give you an idea when you should sell the crop?
Yes, we have. So prior to coming to the event, for UK Group kicked off a day early, so they led the challenge. That day, we actually pinged some local markets in Managua and Nicaragua, and we went and we looked at the going prices of certain commodities, so going to a wholesaler as well as fresh fruits in the market, and we continued to work with the Chilean group and some of the others to see some of those changes. That's the type of functionality we want to incorporate. The buyers or growers actually have 2 options. They can sell locally in the local market, say if they want to sell wax yucca, or they could sell to a wholesaler, or even decide to hedge the fruit and hold it and process it, like say in the form of starch in the case of yucca, or dried pineapple in the case of some dried fruits, and they can hold it for up to a year until the market improves, or in a region that's more favorable.
I'm trying to understand, have you hooked that back in with commodity pricing, or that's a future development?
No, I think that would be a future build.
It's future.
Yeah, and then the same with where you can see the prices, like past the days.
It's a crowdsourcing.
Yeah, we were looking to see the previous seasons as well, so you can, like, before the season begins, start benchmarking your ideas.
Okay.
Thank you.
How much did you guys build over the last few days?
Repeat.
Oh, okay. How much did we build over the last few days? All the user interface. All the SMS capabilities, and then we laid the plans of the database.
Well, there's a basic database that was built by one of the other teams.
Speaking to the mic, not here.
Yeah, so some of the things that the database, the beginnings of the database have been built, and you can query it. That was the work that was, some of the work wasn't done here in San Francisco, but some of the other teams did that.
It was a joint effort 2 days prior.
And did you guys work together somewhat serendipitously? I mean,
Initially, yes, and then we were able to collaborate, and of course that took a lot of communication, a lot of time just with collaborating with the other teams, but especially once we got onto the Skype chat, and we could all just say, hey, you know, I put an update out here, check this link, or, you know, I just pushed my stuff out to GitHub, go ahead and pull it. So that really helped, but yeah, everybody's working a little bit different facet of the problem, so we were more looking at the overall consolidation of the design here. And so we did the design work and the architecture work and some of the pieces like the SMS interface, but the things like the database, that was done mostly in Chile and also San Domingo. And you had the UK, they did a lot of the work with the
climatology layer, so that was their focus. So everybody had a little bit different focus. New York was focused on commodity pricing, as was Nairobi.
One last question. Steady point. When you're going to talk to the customer to see what they would like to see in the app.
And I'm gonna hand this off to Samantha. Well, she was also talking about how enthusiastic we were because she's really enthusiastic about this, and she's been out there talking to them. So here you go.
So I have had the honor of going to a couple of the countries where a lot of humans have been to Nicaragua twice, to go on in Rwanda and Uganda. And I conducted a series of interviews with some colleagues. We had about 40 of them documented, looking at both co-ops as well as some local growers, mid-sized processing facilities to see what they need. So a lot of the constraints that I brought to the table, and actually the individuals in South America working on this, were from first-hand experience. And we do have the partnerships identified, so they're looking to pilot it as soon as this week. And we had Nicaragua, Opportunity International Nicaragua as one of the challenge participant owners, and we were Skyping with them, and they were pinging their staff as we developed the tool. Initially, I'd like to see it, or consider this as the next rock event. I'd like to see in at least 3, French, English, and Spanish.
Awesome. Okay, thank you all so much. Let's, scroll up. Does that help? Oh, the link. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Join the community.
Join Bit.ly, join the community. Yay, okay. So, judges, half hour? Deliberate? Less? Okay. So, half hour on the outside. Let us be good guests and clean up after ourselves and do a little bit more. Tech Talk has been a fantastic venue. And then keep working if you want to, or don't if you don't.
Okay. So we're about to stop.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so I have to have it.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to see
ready.
Yeah, have fun today. What have you done?
You know that's
Anyways, I just wanted to invite you. Congratulations for your work with us. Thank you. You guys also are doing Yeah,
You don't want to see the names?
Is it like one?
What's your name? Hi, Natalie. Yeah, we just
So how did it go?
I think it went fantastically. We had lockers this morning. Yesterday it was toast team and everyone kind of worked through it and system set up, letting one laptop cool off while the other one was working.
It was that hot?
It was intense, yeah. Yeah, it was
Like, go work in a cafe?
I love the cut of your breath.
I've had it for about 10 years. And so I'm actually so surprised. It's actually kind of like a switch panel. Which is why but I like that it has
yeah, that's pretty amazing.
It's this lady,
Stephanie, Cyberpunk.
yeah. So when I'm a student at one of the first pieces that I ever shared once I loved DIY was a cover piece. I loved I'm excited. My next thing will be to get the feather bow tie. My first real bow tie that I can really tie without on the internet. Just tie it. I like it. Like achievement.
Takes practice.
It does. There's one like this.
But I tie them rarely enough, but I also use the sculpt.
Yes. Yesterday I wore my
Turn the lights back there on.
Totally. Do it. Thank you so much for your patience. Yeah. You guys basically had like a whole area the past 2 days? Yep. Yeah.
I feel like I'm being broadcast live.
You are. You are. Yeah. True.
I'm
We are also
streaming.
being broadcast live on this one. So yeah. Timothy. So you have a dual angle. You don't sound surprised. So this is broadcasting from Ron's account.
They can see and hear. Hi, Internet.
The internet. Nope. So right now it's limited and locked. So I would. That's on. Yeah, no, I know. So at 6:08 it went public. Okay. So it is public right now. Wait, what time is it?
It's 6:14.
Okay, cool. Neat. So it's working. All is well.
Hello again, Internet.
So tell me about life. You can also talk over here away from me.
Yeah,
What is your background?
The Internet hear us right now.
No, I was for So right now we're on I'll give you my card.
So I just wanted to last check out, and we're going to leave this down front, that USB adapter for the air.
I emailed everyone on the list to make sure.
Okay, so we'll leave it down front.
Hopefully
Back
it's
for
pretty. Not the
Great. For a half.
Yeah, I wonder if my goal is
Yeah.
right now. So one of the ones that I'm helping right now in developing the TMI matrix. And I say that because I agreed to provide more and like being able to pull together all my friends and say, oh, teams that need to be now, these are really great tools for makers and trying to take that. Yes, part of my role is
So we do a lot of hackathons as well, right? And they was built really, and one of the things like our resources, like work on various classified products, not like
End broadcast. Bye, guys.